Ever been confident you were perfect for a job only to get instant rejection? Or maybe you just never heard back at all. You're not alone, it happens to many job seekers. The problem might not have been you or your experience, but how you wrote your resume. A solid resume is crucial when applying for jobs, but only if you know how to make them work for you, not against you. In this video, we'll answer the questions: how do you write an ATS-friendly resume? What content should you include in your resume to make it stand out? Why do some job applicants ask you to fill out information again, even after uploading your resume? I'm looking at you, Workday. And what mistakes should you avoid when writing your resume? I'm Kyle, and with the help of our experts here at TechnologyAdvice, I'll answer those questions to help you have a better chance at landing that dream job. How should you format your resume? Understanding how recruiters look at your resume is important because it allows you to tailor it to what works best with their ATS. Applicant tracking systems are software tools that make it easier for companies to create, post, manage, and track job postings and the applicants who applied. They also act as gatekeepers, filtering out resumes that don't meet the standards the company is looking for. According to an article by JobScan, in 2023, 97.4% of Fortune 500 companies use an ATS regularly. Another article by Select Software Reviews noted that 70% of large companies and 20% of small to mid-sized businesses use an ATS. The first thing an ATS does when an application is submitted is scan through an applicant's resume and the answers from the application process to parse out specific data to make sure requirements are met. This scan works best with plain text, and it'll skip over anything it cannot read. This could include headers, footers, charts, graphs, columns, or images. Plain text is best for not only the body of your resume, but also the sections, such as education or skills. While it might seem counterintuitive, you do not want to put a bunch of graphical bells and whistles on your resume. As a creative, I get it. I'm a video producer, editor, and an artist by hobby. I like pretty things, and I like to make pretty things. It'd be cool if my entire resume was decked out with images of my favorite Pokemon and colored brightly in E3A79 pink. But you'll have plenty of opportunities to show your personality and creativity. I'd save that for your interview, or if you're a creative, make sure that creativity really shines with your portfolio website or in your reel, but keep your resume straightforward. Similarly, you don't want to use any fonts that are complicated, frilly, or otherwise difficult to read. This is true not only for the recruiters that have to read your resume, but it's also important for the ATS. Use something simple and clean like Arial, Calibri, Cambria, Garamond, or Georgia. Also, consider the file type of your resume. The standard formats accepted across the board are the doc or docx formats. Many also accept PDFs, but there are some that don't, so keep that in mind when uploading your resume for review. Anything outside of these three document types is pretty rare and likely will be rejected. When you upload your resume, you may be asking yourself, if I'm uploading my resume, why do most applications make me fill out the information again anyway? The culprit is one of two things, or possibly both. The company wants to verify that the information on your resume is correct, or the company is making sure that the ATS doesn't accidentally disqualify qualified candidates because of the issues with scanning resumes that we mentioned previously. So, while it may be cumbersome, answering those questions can act as a safety net to reduce the chances that you get erroneously kicked out of the running. Keeping the format clean and simple is important so that the ATS can easily read and understand your resume. But while you might have the right format, what content should you put in your resume to get ahead? Something that you might not want to hear but is very important is this: you should tailor your resume for each job application. I don't mean you have to start from scratch with every single one, but a little bit of tweaking can do a lot of good. For instance, the headline of your resume is prime real estate. The headline is a sentence or two that you put near the top of your resume just underneath your name. Finding a way to work in the title of the job you're applying for works as a confirmation, both for the ATS and the recruiter, that you're the right person for the job. While we're on the topic of recruiters, there are a few key people involved in the job application process. You, the applicant. The recruiter, who may have general knowledge of your role but specializes in managing the ATS, conducting preliminary interviews, and generally overseeing the hiring process. And the hiring manager, who has in-depth knowledge of the job's day-to-day responsibilities and the skills required for the role. Typically, you'll interact with the recruiter first, followed by the hiring manager as you move through the process. But ultimately, all three of these parties will work together throughout the entire process to hopefully choose you. The job posting likely has a good bit of information telling you what skills they're looking for. Sometimes it's pretty direct, laid out nice and neat in a bulleted list for you. Use it. If there are skills that they are looking for that fit your work history and skill set, put that in your resume and use the same words. Most recruiters use their ATS to check and grade resumes based on the keywords used. Some modern ATS tools use AI instead of keyword matches, but including their desired skills in your resume works in that instance as well. Speaking of AI-powered ATS, if you happen to be on the other side of this equation and need an ATS to make your job as a recruiter easier, you might want to consider Clear Company. Clear Company's unified talent management system includes AI, automation, onboarding, engagement, performance management, and analytics. For more info to see how Clear Company can maximize your talent wins with cutting-edge AI HR tools, click the link in the description below. Now, back to resumes. It's important to remember that while you want to match the skills they're looking for, don't stretch the truth. At some point, it will be apparent that you did. Highlight your skills that match what they're looking for, but don't fabricate. Speaking of, in most instances, you want to keep your resume to a single page. Multi-page resumes are generally reserved for higher level positions, but for entry and mid-level positions, a single page is enough. Don't think of your resume like a big, musty old tome that includes every single thing you've done in your professional career. That's what we call a curriculum vitae, or vitae.
Curriculum vitae.
Google says vitae, I'll go with that. Think of it more like a greatest hits compilation. Only include the bits from the last 10 to 15 years that are the most relevant to the job you're looking for. If this creates gaps in the timeline for your resume, be prepared to answer questions about that in your interview. Just answer honestly. For example, you were employed during those gaps, but the experience wasn't as relevant for this role, but you'd be happy to elaborate further if necessary. And when you're writing the greatest hits of your career, it's important that you not only include what you did, but why it mattered. In the descriptions of your previous roles, you want to tell the reader that your work actively changed things for the better. For instance, instead of saying, I made videos for TechnologyAdvice, I could say something like, produced videos that brought TechnologyAdvice's subscriber count to over 30,000. Thanks. While writing those descriptions, in most cases, you want to avoid using too much technical jargon that the common person wouldn't be able to recognize. Remember, after the ATS scans through it, the first humans who will review your resume are likely recruiters, and while they probably have some knowledge of the different roles that they're hiring for, they're likely not experts in that field. Trust me, you'll have plenty of opportunities to flex your technical knowledge when you get in for the interview, but for your resume, use terms that make it easy to understand your value to not just technical experts, but also a general coworker outside of your department. That said, this depends. If the company you're applying to is a niche field, then using jargon from that field should be fine. With these tips in mind, you can create a resume that not only appeals to the ATS screening your resume, but also the recruiters who have a say in moving you to the next step in the hiring process. But Kyle, I hear you saying, do you have any tips on what we should avoid doing? No, but my friends do, and they know even more about this stuff than I do.
First and foremost, people should make sure that they always pay attention to the exact job posting. Some of them will ask for certain things in addition to your resume or even as part of your resume. And if you don't have those, it's not a good sign that you were paying attention.
Be mindful of how messy or clean it looks. Having bullet points is probably preferred when you think about, would you rather read a novel or a checklist? What are you going to get the most out of from that and be able to read it quickly? And most resumes are getting reviewed within, I would say, like 10 seconds, which is wild. But when people have 100 resumes to go through, it's very, very quick. So instead of condensing into one paragraph, bullet points, very simple and easy.
Keep in mind that, and this is a huge misconception that I just heard from people the other day that I keep telling people it's not quite accurate. Applying to the website whenever someone is using an ATS does not necessarily give you an advantage. That's a pretty big one. Whenever we're using an ATS system, the ATS system is designed to make it easy for you in terms of just getting your resume to us in a way that is easy for us to understand, but it also makes it easier for us. So what you'll find is if you apply through LinkedIn or Indeed or Handshake or directly on the website, Yes, they can tell where you applied from. We can tell in the ATS system, but it all goes into the exact same pool. The thing that I see a lot that I absolutely do not like is whenever I see a resume tailored to a different position. A cover letter is even worse, but the resume, I do not put a position that you are not applying for. Do not do that on the cover letter either, but don't do that there. It's very annoying. It shows me that you're not paying attention and you don't care about me. No, it shows me that you're not paying attention, and it shows me that you're not interested in the company.
Please make sure that if you write a cover letter, you put the right company in the subject line or in the actual cover letter itself. I have seen so many people put a whole nother company's name, a whole nother HR individual in that cover letter. And unfortunately, that makes them like automatic rejection. Some might debate me on this, but I think that having any sort of picture on your resume is a no-no.
We don't want to see your picture on your resume. Don't put pictures on your resume. Don't do anything of the sort. It does slip through every now and then. I'm like, okay, this person just graduated from college. I'm so happy for them, but don't do that.
It leaves room for bias and discrimination against you, whether it be your gender, your age, your looks, or even your race. A recruiter may judge you for that picture. Even the best people unconsciously may do that. It's called unconscious bias. So I would definitely avoid that. And in addition, adding personal details like your address, your full address, I would avoid that. Putting your state and your country would be what I would suggest.
You don't need to include anything about your age, and you shouldn't include anything about your age. You don't need to include any of your social media unless they are specifically asking you for that in your application, usually for social media positions or positions where you'd have to manage those kinds of things.
One other thing that I see is adding irrelevant or multiple roles with less detail on each of them. I would much rather learn about the 3 most important roles and experiences that you have that are relevant to the role I'm hiring for than to read about the last 10 roles that you had for only 2 or 3 months each that aren't relevant to the role you're applying for.
And last but not least, the most important thing I can tell anyone what not to do with their resume is do not overthink it. I know that it's easy to do that, especially if you've been applying for jobs for months and months and months and months and months. It's really difficult out there right now, especially in certain fields. Keep trying. We wish you all the best here at TechnologyAdvice. We have openings. You can apply here. But above all else, have faith in yourself. If you do a great job at your resume and you take the time to do it, not getting the position doesn't mean that you're not good at the job. It doesn't mean that you are not a good person. It may mean, which is why we're making this video, that you might need to think a little bit more about ATS systems. I can tell you at this company, we do look at every resume. And some companies like ours, they will just use the ATS to, let's say, if you live in a different country than we are applying for rather than we're hiring for right now, the ATS might remove your application from contention. But many companies, including ours, we still look at every resume. So just, keep your head up.
With those in mind, now you know the do's and don'ts of making your resume. Follow those and you'll have a better chance of snagging that dream job. Best of luck out there. If you like this, check out this video interview we did covering how to answer tough interview questions. Also, swing by technologyadvice.com for more information on ATS or other tech goodies. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.